World Music Introduction, Part 19, Mozart and Western Classical Music. Mozart was a prolific and influential composer of classical period, which falls between Baroque and Romantic periods. His music is melodically beautiful, formally elegant, and rich in harmony and texture. He composed more than 800 works of virtually every Western classical genre of his time. They have set a gold standard for symphonic, concertante, chamber, operatic, and choral repertoire. He is widely regarded as among the greatest composers in the history of Western music. During his final years in Vienna, he composed many of his best-known symphonies, concertos, and operas. Child prodigy Mozart composed from the age of 5 on keyboard and violin. While he was young, he toured Europe and performed as a child prodigy. Marriage of Figaro and Don Giovanni operas are Mozart's two most famous operas and remain as mainstay of operatic repertoire today. Mozart's last opera, Così fan tutte, was premiered back in 1790. The opera Magic Flute is one of his most successful and admired works. Mozart died at the tender age of 35. Ludwig van Beethoven was deeply influenced by Mozart's works. 10 years ago, Swarna and I visited the home where Mozart was born, 267 years ago, in Salzburg, Austria. It was a thrilling experience of a lifetime. We have been listening to Mozart's melodies, along with other Baroque, Romantic, and Western classical era music all around the year, played by Grand Park and Chicago Symphony Orchestras. Our life is enriched by these unforgettable sounds. Amadeus was a 1984 Hollywood musical thriller. The film won 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. World Music Introduction, Part 20, Operatic Music and Operas. Opera originated in Italy at the end of 16th century and during the 18th century continued to dominate most of Europe. Operas come in 3 flavors: opera seria or serious, opera buffa or comic, and short operetta with light themes. The most renowned figure of the late 18th century opera was Mozart. Mozart began with the opera seria, but is most famous for his comic operas, especially The Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, Così fan tutte, and Magic Flute. Christopher Gluck came up with his own reform operas in the 1760s. The early part of 19th century saw the zenith of bel canto style. The mid to late 19th century was a golden age of opera, led and dominated by Giuseppe Verdi in Italy and Richard Wagner in Germany. The popularity of operas continued through the Verismo era in Italy. The bel canto opera movement flourished in the early 19th century and is exemplified by the opera of Rossini, Bellini, and Donizetti. Examples of famous operas in bel canto style include Rossini's Barber of Sevilla, as well as Bellini's Norma and Donizetti's Lucia di Lammermoor. Richard Wagner was one of the most revolutionary and controversial composers in the operatic history. Verdi revolutionized Italian opera by producing in the early 1850s popular operas such as Rigoletto and La Traviata. Then came Giacomo Puccini's La Boheme, Toscanini, and Madame Butterfly. With the rise of recording technology, singers such as Enrico Caruso and Maria Callas became known to much wider audiences. Richard Strauss accepted Wagnerian ideas but looked at them in a wholly new direction. The operettas of Strauss, too, had distinctly Viennese flavor to them. Lully, Jean-Philippe Rameau came on French opera scene to make their own mark. However, the real birth of Russian opera came with Michael Glinka and his two great operas, A Life of the Tsar and Ruslan and Ludmila. The Czech composers also developed a thriving national opera scene. Battered Bride is the most famous of all Czech operas. Some famous tenors are Luciano Pavarotti, Enrico Caruso, Placido Domingo, and Jose Carreras. Some famous sopranos are Maria Callas, Joan Sutherland, and Renee Fleming. World Music Introduction, Part 21, Captivating Bollywood Cinema Music. Bollywood music is one of the most popular forms of music in the world today. Bollywood is a Hindi language film industry based in Mumbai, India. Of late, the love for Bollywood movies as well as songs is spreading far and wide like a wildfire. This musical genre was born 92 years ago, back in 1931, with the advent of India's first sound motion film, Alam Ara, by Ardeshi Irani. Between 1931 and 1940, many of the original actors and actresses sang the songs. During the 1940s and 50s, playback singing along with lip syncing was born. During that era, many notable playback singers and major directors came to prominence, such as Lata Mangeshkar, Hemant Kumar, Asha Bhosle, C. Ramachandra, S.D. Burman, just to mention a few names. The lyric draws heavily from Urdu poetry and ghazal tradition. S.T. Burman, also known as the king of Bollywood music, rose to prominence during the 1960s to the 1990s. Bollywood songs along with dance, which gives Indian cinemas its enduring popular appeal, cultural value, and context. Songs have been a regular feature and integral part of Hindi mainstream cinema. Bollywood music has drawn its inspiration from numerous traditional sources such as Ramalila, Nautanki, Tamasha, Farsi theatres from the West, and musical subcultures of Indian subcontinent. The fast Bollywood rhythmic beats elevate my melancholic mood and provide the badly needed relaxation. Bollywood music has been my tonic, multivitamin, and a shot in the arm since the mid-1950s. Gramophones and radios beamed those melodious songs back then in the 1950s in my village, Belwanki, Karnataka, India. As a young lad, my joy knew no bounds whenever I heard the hypnotizing sounds such as Jadugar Saiya, Chodo More Baiya, Sari Sari Raton Teri, Yaad Sataye, so on and so forth. Written, narrated and produced by M.S. Patil or Mahendra Patil, beyond the shadow of doubt. For from the very heart of Chicago, Illinois, USA. Thank you kindly. January 2024.